Okay, so this morning, like millions of us, I had my cup of coffee. It's a ritual, right? But what if I told you that simple daily ritual is under serious threat? And what if the solution wasn't found on a plantation, but in a lab? We're going to get right into it. Look, it might sound a little dramatic, but it's the reality we're facing. The coffee we all know and love is up against a real crisis. And that crisis is already starting to affect the price you pay for your daily cup. It's the question we're all asking ourselves when we see the prices creeping up at the coffee shop or in the grocery store. And the answer, well, it's not simple. It's basically a perfect storm of global pressures. What's really fascinating here is how all of these things are connected. You have climate change causing all this extreme weather, which leads to droughts and crop failures in the biggest coffee growing regions. This makes the plants weaker, more vulnerable to disease, and all of this is happening while the global demand for coffee just keeps on climbing. I just love this quote because it sums up the problem perfectly. Arabica plants, they are incredibly picky. They need very specific temperatures, just the right amount of rain, and they only grow at certain altitudes. And well, our changing planet is making it harder and harder to find their perfect home. So here's the number that should really make you pause. Projections are showing that by the year 2050, up to 50% of the land that's currently used for coffee farming could become unsuitable. Half. That is a massive threat to the global supply. So if we can't rely on the plant anymore, what's the alternative? This is where things get really futuristic. What if we could make coffee without the actual coffee plant? The technology behind this idea is called cellular agriculture. So instead of growing a whole complicated plant over years and years, you're just growing the coffee cells themselves in a controlled, nutrient-rich environment. Think of it like a high-tech greenhouse, but for cells. And this right here is the most important point to understand. We are not talking about a coffee substitute made from chicory or something like that. This is biologically, genetically, 100% coffee. It just has a very, very different origin story. So how on earth do you get from a single cell on a leaf to the dark powder that you put in your coffee maker? The process is actually surprisingly straightforward when you break it down. So, how's it work? First, scientists isolate cells from a real coffee plant leaf. Those cells then go into a bioreactor, basically a big tank with all the food they need to multiply. Once enough cells have grown, they're harvested as a biomass, which then gets dried and roasted just like traditional beans. The final result? Coffee powder, ready to brew. And here is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. A traditional coffee plant takes 3 to 5 years to mature and produce beans. This process in the lab, it can create a batch of coffee cells in just 2 to 3 weeks. The efficiency is just on another level entirely. Okay, it's fast, it's efficient, it's futuristic, but does it actually taste like coffee? Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that really matters, right? Well, according to the professional tasters who've tried the first batches, the answer is kinda. The bitterness and the acidity are apparently very similar to regular coffee, but the overall flavor profile is simpler, often described as smoky with notes of burnt sugar. It's currently missing some of those complex aromatic compounds that give traditional coffee its unique character, but, the tech is still super new. So beyond the taste, this technology has huge implications for our planet, our wallets, and the very people who grow our coffee right now. Let's look at the bigger picture. This table really shows why the argument for lab-grown coffee is so incredibly compelling. Traditional coffee takes about 140 liters of water per cup, and it's a major cause of deforestation. Lab-grown coffee could cut water usage by up to 94%, needs almost no land, requires 0 pesticides, and because it can be produced locally, it slashes transportation emissions. The potential environmental benefits here are just enormous. And this is the crucial human question at the heart of this innovation. If we start growing coffee in labs, what happens to the 12.5 million mostly small-scale farms around the world that depend on coffee for their livelihood? The companies developing this tech are very clear. Their goal is not to replace farmers. The reality is, with global coffee demand expected to triple by 2050, traditional farming simply won't be able to keep up, especially as climate change reduces the amount of available land. The idea is that lab-grown coffee will fill that massive supply gap, helping to stabilize the market for everyone. So, after looking at the problem, the technology, the taste, and the impact, what is the most likely future for our morning ritual? The most likely scenario isn't an either-or future. It's a blended market. Think about mass market products like instant and filter coffee. Manufacturers could blend lab-grown coffee, say 25%, with traditional beans. This would create a consistent, stable, and more affordable supply and protect us consumers from the price shocks of bad harvests. And this future isn't that far away. The technology is being refined right now. Regulatory approvals are expected within the next 2 to 4 years. After that, it's just a matter of scaling up production to get this from the lab into our supermarkets. So, ultimately, it comes down to this. A future where our coffee comes from both the farm and the lab seems almost inevitable. It promises a more stable, more sustainable, and more secure future for our favorite drink. The only question left is, once it's here, are we ready to drink it?